Our organization offers a 2-year appraiser designation program with a scaffolded delivery. Core courses are divided into 3 levels of completion: introductory, intermediate, and advanced. This design assumes that the candidate will amass 6 to 8 months of real-world experience between core courses under the careful mentorship of their supervisor. However, there are several problems with the supervisory model. First, few supervisors take time to mentor and educate their candidates, instead mistakenly assuming that their candidates' core courses will cover all learning needs. To be honest, this is not an unrealistic assumption on the part of the supervisor. Second, candidates are limited to geographical areas where supervisory appraisers currently practice, and so potential candidates in unserviced regions must relocate to unfamiliar areas to acquire a supervisor. Truth be told, almost all potential candidates encountering this situation are forced to walk away. And third, supervisors fear that taking on a new candidate results in them training their future competition. This results in fewer willing supervisors and declining candidate enrollment. For these reasons, we need to rethink our supervisory model of learning. And so I recommend shifting supervisory responsibilities away from designated appraisers and onto our own education program via online video-based simulations that can be offered virtually to any candidate regardless of their geographic location. But if there are so many issues with our supervisory model, why hold on to it? To answer this, we need to first ask ourselves what is so important about engaging in real-world problems with fellow professionals. It all boils down to what educational theorist Etienne Wenger recognizes as a connection between knowledge, community, learning, and identity. All of these are essential elements in apprenticeship-type programs that have their roots in social learning theories like Wenger's own social theory of learning. What it boils down to is that human knowing is fundamentally a social act, and if we accept that learning occurs via social interaction, then educators must work to help students deal with challenges that they will face in those social interactions outside the classroom, within their communities of practice, where the most authentic education occurs. It's a pretty informal mode of education that helps the learner understand the lifelong process of coming to know themselves. So, to sustain the appraisal industry long term, we must not abandon but readapt the supervisory model in a manner that still provides those authentic lived experiences, allows remote access for candidates in unserved areas, and finally, no longer asks supervisors to train their competition. We can achieve all this by delivering an online supervisory simulation rather than with an in-person supervisor. The endeavor need not require creating a completely immersive virtual world. Instead, we can provide a series of simple video-based simulations that mimic real-world problems. I recommend Vyond Digital Animation Studios as the primary tool for creating these online simulations or scenarios. Vyond short videos can present real-world problems that candidate appraisers can explore under the guidance of an online virtual supervisor. But what is Vyond? It is a cloud-based digital animation software that allows users to create engaging video presentations. Through visual appeal, Vyond's 3 style options, business-friendly, whiteboard animation, and contemporary, help cater the message via the aesthetic preferences of the content creator. Presentation designers can choose between a character-driven or text-based approach to narrative, or create a hybrid of both visual approaches. To further simplify the communication of ideas, the software offers a library of presentation templates that help organize or break down visual explanations in a coherent manner. And where the prefab templates fall short of need, users can design or upload their own visual templates. Why are video-based simulations an effective teaching tool? Videos can provide learners with controlled situations that mimic real-world challenges and problems. Within these simulation settings, learners are safe to explore and experiment, which is particularly motivating and beneficial to the novice learner. Working through video simulations, particularly within a team, can significantly improve secondary learning outcomes, like improving communication and technical skills, and likewise improving students' motivation and student pass rates. Learner-centered programming paired with technology used as an adjunct significantly increases the achievement of students in the classroom. From a technical perspective, animated videos are also an affordable and versatile option that can present a great deal of information in a quick and engaging manner. The app's embedded playfulness, rooted in the asset libraries, allows for choice and creativity, and as such, animation videos can be effective, fun, catchy, mnemonic, and informative, enhancing student curiosity and critical approaches. Providing the details of a real-world challenge via video allows content creators to decide what information will be explicit and emphasized, and what information the group will need to mine further. What's more, learners have the functional benefit of pausing, stepping back, synthesizing, and analyzing with others. And a final note, videos may also facilitate better long-term recall rather than simply reading text. All of these factors make video simulations an effective application for problem-solving scenarios. But there are some disadvantages we must consider. Creating video-based simulations can be labor-intensive. Finalizing a simulation script and storyboard should be done with careful consideration, since re-editing a video can be problematic. Thus, video simulations should only be created for fundamental skills or professional challenges that are not likely to change. Keep in mind that animated video simulations are limited to audiovisual presentation elements. And so, if we are to create virtual worlds for learners to explore, the Vyond artifacts need to be housed within other EdTech apps that can map out the materials into an explorable structure. But through pairing Vyond with other typical EdTech, such as D2L platforms that have options to access forum posts, we can still simulate a practice world for candidates to explore under the guidance of their virtual supervisor. It is this pairing with other EdTech apps that allows for an enlarged community of practice in which a cohort of appraisal candidates can work on real-world problems together. When delivering online learning, there is a definite need to provide shared virtual learning spaces for students and provide incentives for participation, which is a low priority and a limitation of our organization's current training. So how do we go about implementing a video simulation-based supervisory model of learning within our education program? I recommend we use Naslund and Norman's 6 steps for reviewing models for change readiness. First in this systems approach to change management is to establish a clear vision for the change effort. In this step, we need to set our goals for the project, defining where we want to end up. So what does success look like for our project? In this case, we want to create a community of practice, where learners encounter a series of scenarios or simulations that mimic real-world problems, that foster social interaction within an online learning environment, that scaffolds the simulations and interactions with a gradual release of responsibility so that learners develop strong analytical and problem-solving skills, and can eventually do so on their own without the help of their community of practice. The next step in change readiness is a thorough problem analysis. This means identifying the problems our strategic goals are trying to address and the root causes. In this situation, we need to address the problems inherent in our current supervisory model of learning. Those problems are the limited time supervisors can provide mentors due to constraints of running their own businesses, the absence of supervisors in expanding geographic areas where potential candidates may want to set up new professional practices, the misunderstanding that the current education program already does and should provide supervisory instruction, which is not a wholly unrealistic expectation, the fear that supervisors end up training their competition, and the overall arching effect of fewer new candidates and a lack of growth in our membership. Considering all these problems, we as an organization need to accept that change is imminent. We know that the supervisory model of learning in its current form is broken and must be amended. Without a comprehensive rethink, the stagnation in membership growth will remain an existential problem to our organization. So, by redeveloping the supervisory model into online simulations with a virtual supervisor, we can mitigate those factors that limit learner development and industry growth. Luckily, our top management, the CEO and executive director, are already in favor of a transition to an online simulation-based supervisory learning program. And we are in great shape in terms of recipient buy-in. Our middle management champion of change for this project is the Director of Education, our link between the administrative team and our membership. And he is also conveniently the creator of the educational content for the new simulation-based supervisory model of learning. He has already informally reached out to stakeholders at all levels and sussed out problem deficiencies, needed changes, and an appetite for those changes. In doing so, he's discovered that current supervisors and candidate learners are eager to see the responsibility for community of practice learning completely shift or be shared with an online simulation-based supervisory learning program. Truth be told, the general sentiment from our membership is that this change is a long time coming, and there is overall excitement at all levels for this sort of change and innovation. Knowing that we have a coherent set of goals and the support of the overall administrative team, we now need to prioritize and rank our strategic goals and minimize to only those essential change initiatives that are feasible, show business benefit, and will have the impact we desire. To not exhaust ourselves in this grand-scale educational restructure, I recommend we focus on the following objectives. List the prominent skills typically addressed by supervisors and scaffold them in order of need. Create real-world scenarios in which candidates will encounter these needed skills. Then script out problem narratives for these scenarios and adapt them to video simulations. Create the video simulations and structure them within a D2L type learning platform that allows for forum posting. Next, hire a virtual supervisor and train them on the regional competencies of this online world. They will be the guide and mentor for our online learners as they work through this virtual world. Then trial the simulations with staff and beta test with a cohort group. And finally, analyze effectiveness and reevaluate program design and delivery. The time to develop the scripts, produce the video simulations, map them out in an online platform, and beta test will likely take 8 months to a year to complete. If successfully implemented, this long-term commitment will be worth the investment, since, for the first time, regardless of their location, learners will now have a reliable community of practice in which they can start their apprenticeship. Learning will be organized and delivered in a scaffolded series of engaging real-world simulations. Supervisor mentoring will consistently cover all fundamental skills. As a fee-based program, the simulation-based supervisory model will pay for itself and provide a new source of needed income for the organization. We will have simplified the candidacy process by removing the reluctant or busy supervisor from the equation, and they will no longer be training their competition. And last but not least, we will have positioned ourselves for membership growth. Even with all this, there are some future challenges we need to consider. If we want candidates to engage in the simulations within a cohort community of practice, all within the cohort must start the simulations at the same time. This means deferring simulation program start dates until we have enough candidates to make up a cohort group. There's also the loss of a community of practice once the simulation-based mentorship program is complete. We may need to consider how to connect these learners with professionals near or within their region they live, and the need for future mentorship and support after completing the simulation-based supervisory program. Professional learning and need for a mentor may not end once the simulation models are complete. So who will fill this role post-completion? As can be seen, Vyond provides a 21st century educational experience that submerges the learner in programs filled with social interaction, real-world application, problem-solving, and multimodal forms of communication that closely mirror the future of work. When properly paired with supplemental edtech, Vyond can help transition learning away from a passive model to a more interactive model, useful to future economies that will favor collaborative work along with critical and individual thinking. Humans are social beings. We learn with others in order to function more effectively in our daily lives, as professionals, as family members, and in doing so, we acquire a clearer sense of self. Better knowing ourselves means we can better navigate the sophisticated and nuanced issues and identities encountered daily within the appraisal industry.